Hare Krishna. Everyone postures themselves. And here we'll talk about what the posturing is, the way that the demoniac person appears to the world. And he may appear to be a very, very pious person because he does certain things that other people of the same ilk very much respect. And let me read how a demoniac person actually thinks. And there may be some adjustment in terms of our modern context, but overall, you get the picture. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today? Everyone's worried about how much wealth. And I'll gain more according to my schemes. And I got lots of plans to become rich. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. Whether it's my cars, it's my home, it's, who knows, whether it's my spouse, whether I have this many girlfriends or that many boyfriends. He's my enemy, and I've killed him. And my other enemies will also be killed. We don't physically kill people, but economically we kill them, socially we kill them. We get on the media and we really lambaste them by calling them all kinds of names and so on. I am the Lord of everything, at least everything that I survey. I'm the enjoyer, I'm perfect, I'm powerful, and I'm happy. I'm enjoying, I'm having a good time. And by comparison to everyone else, yeah, I'm great. I'm the richest man surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There's no one more powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. I've made so much money, sure, I'm going to build a hospital and I'll take care of the needy and have an orphanage, and people will recognize what a philanthropist I am, what a wonderful person I am. This is the psychology and mentality of the demoniac people. We get together, we get all the rich people, and we try to help the poor people. We provide them with food and other things like that. Don't give them spiritual knowledge. I don't have spiritual knowledge myself, actually. And the motivation with which I do all of these things is name, fame, prestige, and so on. What happens to these people? Perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down to hell. So Krishna says they actually fall down from their position. Now, I've addressed this point before, and very often there's this misconception that the spiritual evolution of living entities, once they reach the human form, they don't fall down. But Krishna here is saying, oh yes, they do. And they fall down into very unfortunate species of life. When Krishna says they fall down into hell, you will see in the next verse, this is what he's talking about. People are perplexed. They're actually perplexed. While in one sense they think like this, but in the meantime, they're still constantly in anxiety, and they're bound by a network of illusions. Wonderful terminology. In verse 17, Krishna says, self-complacent, always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes proudly perform sacrifice in name only, without following any rules and regulations. By sacrifice here we mean religious activities. They go to church. I'm going to go to Sunday service. I go for Christmas service. I don't really believe in God, but I should be seen to be doing things because this is part of my picture. This is part of my scene. I should be understood that I'm religious. I don't believe in the religion. I'm not very serious about scriptural study, whatever that religion may be, but still, I want to be seen to be there. So, bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, all of these characteristics, what is the end result? Is that people become bewildered. And the demons, these people, become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's situated in their own bodies and the body of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. So people ultimately become envious of God, the concept of God. Why should I surrender to the God? How can God be good if he allows human beings to commit so many atrocities? It can't be such a good God. So I'm sort of envious. I just dispose of that God. And I'm the creator. I'm so smart. We're doing things a lot better than God is doing. We don't need a creator. The world's coming out of nothing. This is all really envy, is being envy of that Supreme Lord who is where? Well, he's within you. And he's giving you guidance all the time. And he's giving you so many things, but you neglect it. So what happens to these people? Those who are envious and mischievous, who are lowest amongst men, these are considered by Krishna lowest amongst men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence. In other words, they stay here in this material existence. Perpetually means at least while they continue with the same type of mindset, into various demoniac species of life. Demoniac species of life means insects, dogs, cats, other types of aquatic, sharks, and so on. You may like these animals, but they're considered, by comparison to being in a human species, a very unfortunate species, because there's no facility for self-realization. We are now concluding and trying to turn the page. Attaining repeated births amongst species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. In other words, rather than even coming up, they actually go down. But how to avoid this? How to avoid going into what Krishna actually here calls narak, which means to hell. Krishna divides this path into three. He says there are three gates leading to this hell. In other words, if you want to just summarize everything that we've talked about: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. All these things about demoniac life, Krishna says, these three things, lust, anger, greed, they degrade the soul into this type of life. Therefore, we should give them up. And the man who escapes these three gates of hell performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. So by avoiding these, then one performs acts that are conducive to self-realization, practices spiritual life, yoga, and notice Krishna says, gradually he attains. It may not happen in one life, it can happen, but it may take many lifetimes, especially before they come to bhakti yoga. So what's the rule of thumb in terms of how one should act and should not act? Krishna summarizes. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. Basically, human life is meant to be guided by scripture. You like it, you don't like it, that's what it's about. There are different types of scripture for people in different parts of the world, according to different religion, but the basic laws of God are meant to regulate human conduct so that people become elevated, as it was stated here earlier, thus gradually attains the supreme destination. And that is why we're presenting this Bhagavad Gita, so that people can change their habits and raise themselves and attain the supreme destination in this life. Last verse. One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of Scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. In other words, it's not a matter of doing what you think is right, doing so what socially is considered to be right, even what may be legally right. It's a matter of what is actually scripturally right. What is actually scripturally right, and man's laws have certain rules which are shared by Scripture as well. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, and so on. But similarly, there are other teachings in Scripture as to how to really elevate our soul. And that is how we'll know what is right and what is not right, what is to be done and what is not to be done. And someone who knows what's to be done and what's not to be done, they are of divine nature, and someone who doesn't, they are of the demoniac. And that was chapter 16, and it was different. Hare Krishna.